PanTech Chronicles, Book 2, Insurrection, written by F. Lockhaven and M. A. Owens. Chapter 19. 6 days later. PanTech's technology was beyond what anyone could have imagined for my village. What would Father say if he knew there was a simple injection that could start a rapid regrowth of damaged bone and tissue? I knew what he'd say. I'm confident he'd curse PanTech for keeping it to themselves, while others died of injuries or suffered months of grueling recovery in bed, wearing casts, and physical therapy. He'd remember the times PanTech halted his own research and inventions, all of which paled compared to what was available to them. He'd be right. And yet, here I was. These injuries would have been life-threatening if I'd sustained them in my village. 1 week later, only an enormous appetite and a bit of soreness remained. While the treatment was working its magic, it needed constant energy to fuel it. We'd packed so many nutrition packs just in case, and we'd nearly emptied them all, plus Ghost's constant hunting for us, and Henry's cooking and feeding us. Most of us have met people in our lives that make you wonder how they ever became friends. Two individuals so different in every way that it would seem impossible. Many times, events like this were the reason. Henry and Ghost fit that description. Henry felt uneasy around Ghost from the very start, and Ghost found Henry's cheerful optimism annoying. Before this expedition ended, they were coordinating like old friends, exchanging instructions and taking care of Linda and me as well as anyone could have. Being unsure of whether bringing Henry along was the right thing to do, all doubt had left me now. I might have been dead if it wasn't for him dragging me out of harm's way. Ghost had warned us of danger and gave us time to put up our guard. He helped in the fight. He hunted the food for Henry to keep us fed so our bodies could heal. This was the true vision of what these animal companions could mean for their human counterparts. No matter what happened, I couldn't let General Marcus pervert it into just another military weapon project. More than anything, I couldn't let a man like that seize control of PanTech. As corrupt as the entire organization was, there were still parts of it that were mostly harmless, or even helpful. General Marcus would turn something mostly bad into something completely bad. Everything would be converted into a weapon idea. He was paranoid about the adversity zones, and he'd probably tighten restrictions and lock them under complete violent control. The image of armed troops marching through my village, ordering everyone around at gunpoint, sent a chill down my spine. It couldn't happen. It just couldn't.
Fried squirrel with squirrel gravy topped with nutrition supplement crumbs. Wow, what a great breakfast!
Henry cheered. From anyone else, I'd have assumed it was sarcasm. From Henry, sarcasm just didn't come naturally. Or at all.
Wow. Yeah. I really loved it yesterday, too. And the day before that. And the day before that.
Linda said, demonstrating sarcasm perfectly.
What about you, Ghost?
Henry asked, holding up a bowl.
I don't need to eat like a human,
Ghost said coldly, pulling apart a squirrel he'd just caught.
Okay. It is your choice. There will be enough for Linda and Taylor to have seconds.
It felt so awkward not to discuss anything Ghost had told us. We couldn't. Not as long as he was present, and the spying devices they equipped him with were likely back online. There were so many things I wish I could have stayed conscious long enough to ask him. For example, what did the other insurrectionists look like? Was Frelia among them? I could have asked for more details on their plans or where they meet. Could have, would have, should have. No point in worrying about that now. Ghost told us the most important things he could in the short time he had to do it. I'd have to work with it, and quickly. As long as I exposed him before the animal research concludes, and innocent animals are deployed into the field, that's all that matters.
I'm going to join you with the joint project, Taylor.
Linda said, as though reading my mind.
I'm sure you already guessed that I would.
I wasn't sure, and I wouldn't ask. It's outside of what we were originally planning, so...
I trailed off, careful not to say too much.
I also have something to give you,
she said, reaching behind her and producing her sword.
Twisted Key is yours now. I want you to have it, but on one condition.
Thanks.
I said, before turning to Ghost.
Speaking of gifts, I think I'd like to bring some of that squirrel back with us and have the kitchen do something proper with it. Do you think you could capture about 10 more for us, Ghost, and leave them by the wall so we can bring them in later?
Ghost nodded, finishing his bite and flying away. I watched for a moment, making sure he was long gone before speaking.
Okay, why are you giving me your sword? This is important to you. Really important, considering that explanation you gave me about the souls being in it.
Linda sighed, partially drawing the blade to inspect it, then sheathing it again.
I can tell that it's going to be far more at home with you than with me and my new life here. You could say the sword is asking me to give it to you. In a way. I just want you to be honest with me for once. Can you do that?
Henry attempted a throat-clearing sound, which ended up sounding more like a burp.
Oh, look! There is a better spot for me to wash these squirrels over there. I will go there and come back soon,
He said. Linda and I laughed, but it really was thoughtful of him. Something else he was learning.
I'm sorry, Linda. It's not that I didn't want to tell you. I just didn't want to involve anyone else in my personal problems. It's all really complicated, too. PanTech.
I swallowed hard. The tears were already threatening to emerge. When did I become such a crybaby?
PanTech soldiers killed the man I loved, but he was also a PanTech soldier. I hated his commander for failing to do more, and now she's become my friend, I think. When I was still in my village, there were rebels there. She offered me the chance to bring Ghost with me, and also to be given a physical enhancement implant like the commanders get. I found out the rebels sold out Linus, and they were the reason he died, and I snapped. I confronted them out in the open. Ghost and I killed the leader, and PanTech arrested the others. And here I am. And now there's a military coup brewing that only I know about, and—
We know, Taylor. We know about it. Besides, I don't know why you're so worried about being out in the open about the other things. You sound like a model PanTech citizen, protecting their interests.
I don't want to be a model PanTech citizen, Linda. You want me to be honest with you? I want to see them destroyed. I hate PanTech. I hate what they do to people, forcing them through pain and suffering while they— Look at the medicine we just used. How many have you seen die in your own zone who could have been saved by something like this? I had life-threatening, life-altering injuries a week ago, and I'm completely healed. Limitless resources? Never-ending food we don't even need, while others starve according to plan.
Stop.
Linda said, pushing the sword into my chest.
I've heard enough.
I grabbed her arm as she took a step back.
Are you sure? I think about this all the time. I could keep going.
That's enough.
She said, jerking her arm away.
I just need time to think about all this. It's just, do you hear yourself, Taylor? Are you insane? PanTech isn't just a ragtag group of rebels you can outsmart. They have things like, medicine that can heal life-threatening injuries in days, limitless resources, never-ending food, and never-ending guns. Didn't you see all those bodies in the wall? The machine probably did that. We almost died, and we didn't even disable it. One machine. They probably have hundreds, maybe thousands of them in the uninhabited wilderness that stretches beyond here. What you want to do, you cannot do.
Don't tell me what I can't do. You may be too much of a coward to even try, but I won't rest until things change.
Immediately, I felt the stab of regret, but I was too angry to take it back. Linda's eyes watered, and she rubbed one of them before forcing a laugh.
Me? A coward? I was ready to fight alongside you to the death. And you call me a coward? There is no greater insult to my people, and yet you call me, your friend, that so easily. Do you hear anything you say? If I'm a coward, then you're a fool. If courage was enough to accomplish the impossible, Linus would still be alive.
I drew back the sword and threw it on the ground at her feet. My skin felt as though it was about to boil right off my bones. Though the rage didn't stop the tears from flowing, it only made them feel hot against my cheeks. With one punch, I could hit her so hard in the face, it would break her neck. Only I knew she was right. It changed nothing, but she was right. Linus was a master with the gun, but died because he was injured, had two opponents, and an inferior weapon. At least, that's what I told myself. Maybe it was because the person with him was too weak to be of any help. As I am now, I could have helped him. I could have killed them both, and he wouldn't have even needed to lift a finger. Maybe he was a fool too, trying to do the impossible. If that's what it means to be a fool, then a fool was what I wanted to be. I'd accept that label proudly, even if I had to continue on that path alone. I turned and was about to stomp off when I felt a hand grip my wrist.
I'm sorry.
Linda said, shoving the sword into my hand. When I turned, she wouldn't meet my gaze. Instead, she looked down at her feet.
I'm sorry.
I said.
You're not a coward. I was wrong to call you one.
I'm only sorry about what I said about Linus. You are definitely a fool, but you're my friend, and foolishness and bravery are the same thing, just a little different flavor. What you said just caught me off guard is all. I'm with you. If you need my help, you only need to ask. You don't have to keep doing everything alone and hiding things.
I turned and wrapped my arms around her, and probably looked like a child hugging her mother, considering our height difference.
Oh, this is good. I'm glad you two aren't angry now. I will join the hug too,
Henry said, running toward us with his arms wide. The seriousness of the moment couldn't survive Henry. We were both laughing before we knew it. Chapter 20. Having had just about enough of our so-called vacation, we made our way back to the inner wall a day earlier than planned. We'd collected more than enough data to keep Barth entertained for a while, and we were depleted of our first aid supplies. Unlikely as it was for that machine to come back for us again, it wasn't a chance we would take now that we'd fully recovered. I'd kept Ghost away from the General and his goons long enough for the procedure to take effect. He'd progressed far faster than Henry had, and seemed to exceed human intelligence in certain ways, though he lacked the communication of emotion Henry had developed. Like some humans, I just saw this as part of his personality. I liked the stoic, cool-headed Ghost. I knew him far better than anyone else, and this was always his personality. He'd been observing and studying, even though he couldn't completely understand. He'd committed words and phrases to memory, even without grasping their whole meaning. It seemed he truly was special. Nearing the gate, he perched on my shoulder. Henry seemed agitated.
I smell Joyce. She is nervous. Something is wrong.
I shot him a glance, more out of surprise than skepticism. He was getting much better at articulating his instincts.
Are you sure?
I asked.
You can tell she's nervous?
I can. It's hard to explain. I just know.
Maybe she's just worried about us. I mean, it has been almost 2 weeks after all. You'd worry about me if I was gone for a while too, right?
I was worried just thinking about you being gone.
Henry agreed, nodding vigorously, causing his ears to flop around. I smiled, pressing a button on the gate to alert the guards nearby. My finger had only barely touched it when it flung open, surprising all of us into taking a step back. Joyce was standing there alone, her eyes wide.
Taylor, this is bad. I'm glad I got to you before they did,
She said, running forward and grabbing my shoulders.
This is terrible. I don't know what to do. Barr said there's nothing we can do.
Joyce, breathe. Slow down. What's bad? Who wants to get to us?
Not us, Taylor. You. General Marcus is stomping around animal research like it's his division, impeding the upgrade process and irritating Barth to no end. He was livid that you went on that expedition without his permission.
I shrugged.
Well, I can't say I didn't expect this might happen. I suppose he has the right to come after me if he thinks I broke the rules.
I took a step forward, and Joyce pushed me back again.
No, Taylor, he doesn't. I haven't mentioned this, but my father is an investigator, detective, whatever you want to call it, at the Division of Investigation. They look into rule breakers, stolen items, and things like that. That's their jurisdiction. The general is head of adversity management. He only has that kind of authority over those in his own division. or the zones. He's acting completely outside his authority.
Not that it matters when he's all buddy-buddy with the president.
Linda said.
Exactly. No one can hide here, and it'll just make things worse if I avoid him. I'll go straight to him and just see what he wants. There's no use in us getting bent out of shape until we find out what's got him bent out of shape,
I said, surprised at my calm demeanor. That's what happens after a brush with death. Kind of makes everything else feel trivial,
I'll go with you.
Linda said, putting a hand on my shoulder. I shook my head.
No, I can handle him on my own. There's only so much he can do to me right here in headquarters.
I wonder.
Joyce said, nervously tapping her foot.
Ghost, go with Linda. I'll catch up with all of you later. Maybe we can get some dinner for once.
I like dinner.
Henry said, licking his lips.
We know you do, Henry.
Linda said, patting him on the head.
And sure, I'll take Ghost with me. Please don't eat me, Ghost.
Ghost said nothing, not even a nod. Linda shuddered. I gave Joyce a pat on the shoulder and continued walking past her and past the guards who had spoken to us almost 2 weeks prior. They both offered a smile and a nod, but seeing that I was walking with purpose, didn't speak to me or otherwise hold me up. I continued walking like this all the way to the transport, boarding it for animal research. As soon as I stepped off, Barth spotted me and almost sprinted in my direction. It was almost funny, given I'd never seen the man go any faster than his usual confident stride. This looked anything but confident.
Taylor, thank goodness you're in one piece. I made a huge mistake allowing your expedition. The general gave me an earful. I tried to make it look like I was certain you'd return, but I was anything but certain once he told me what existed beyond the wall. You need to go see him right now, down in adversity management.
I held up my hand.
Take it easy, Professor. As you can see, I made it back just fine, and so did Linda, Henry, and Ghost. Linda will be here soon with our data we collected. You're going to love it. The machine that was out there has had a tremendous influence on the ecosystem. For example, there are no animals who live primarily on the ground.
He tilted his head. I had his attention now and distracted him from his panic.
Truly? That's remarkable. Did you happen to... No. You need to go see the general. Once you're done, resume your work on the joint project.
He waved both hands, shooing me back into the transport. I hadn't recovered from the first trip. I really should have taken a few minutes break, but I didn't. Of course, I paid for it when I arrived at adversity management. Immediately after stepping out of the pod, I ran to the nearest waste canister to hurl. I hated these things. I wondered if there was a long way I could take next time. With that bit of business out of the way, I continued my walk toward the main building. I'd been inside the science building already, but never this one. It dwarfed every other division I knew of. I was understanding why it was on the ground, too. At least, I had a theory. If there's a fight, it's best for the people with all the armor and guns to get there first.
Stop right there.
A voice called out from my right. He stepped quickly toward me.
State your business or...
He stopped in his tracks once he was close enough to get a good look at me.
Wait, Taylor?
Ferris?
I said, trying to conceal my excitement. It sounded like him, but it was hard to tell through the helmet's speaker, and everyone looked like a robot with those helmets on. He pulled off his helmet, and sure enough, it was him. I almost wasn't sure, even after seeing his face. He'd matured so much in these past months, already growing a beard. He looked so much like Father, and it made my heart swell. I ran toward him, jumping the extra height his suit gave and hanging off his neck while hugging him tightly.
Ferris, it's really you.
I could barely contain my excitement. I hadn't spoken to my brother since we arrived. Lately, I wasn't sure when I'd ever get to see him again.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the big shot herself. I swear, I go to an entirely different division to get away from you, but I end up hearing your name all the time anyway. The last couple of weeks, at least.
I let go of his neck, dropping back to my feet, giving him a shove that hit harder than I intended.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does your ego hurt? And speaking of apologies, where's mine? Why haven't I heard from you? There's instant communication technology here, you know. Have you heard of it? And those awful transports.
Ah, now that's the sister I remember. Well, first of all, not everyone's as special as you and gets to go on those things freely. Second, the general doesn't like us being distracted when we first arrive until after we finish our basic training. After that, we immediately get shipped out on our first mission. I haven't been out long. The day after you did whatever you did to ruffle General Marcus's feathers, apparently. I wish I could have gone with you. They made it sound like it was dangerous. Were they mistaken?
I shook my head.
No, they weren't mistaken. We almost died. Probably would have if I had to carry dead weight like you around, so I'm glad things worked out the way they did.
Oh, ha ha ha. You're so funny, Taylor. By the way, how do you like my whiskers? Came in pretty well, huh? I think I look like father now.
Do you think Mother and Father are doing okay?
I said, my voice low.
It's mother and father. Of course they're doing okay. And all jokes aside, I'm really happy to see you again.
Me too, Ferris. So much has happened. I wish I could tell you everything, but it would take more time than I have now. Speaking of which, I'd much prefer to find the General before he finds me. I get the feeling things are a lot more likely to go better for me if I do. Offer your sister an escort?
He smiled, fitting his helmet back on.
It would be my pleasure, Assistant Professor. Right this way.
He stepped toward the massive building, and I followed. I quickly realized I would have gotten lost without him, as it took us a full 20-minute walk to reach the other side. Much of the building comprised different training areas. Some were simulated to look like the outdoors. Other areas we passed were clearly stocked with equipment and even vehicles, most of which I'd never seen before and couldn't even guess the capabilities. I was sure that somewhere around here there were more of those horrible machines, but likely somewhere my brother wouldn't be allowed to go. Finally, we reached a large room that looked like something out of a fantasy tale, with maps adorning the walls and shelves filled with real paper books. A massive table sat at the center, with a model of the entire PanTech headquarters and the land beyond. Sitting at a large wooden desk on the other side was General Marcus, arms crossed with a smile on his lips. He nodded impatiently at Ferris, who quickly remembered protocol, snapping to salute, his left fist resting on his lower back and his right fist on his chest.
Sir, Assistant Professor Taylor from Animal Research is here to see you.
Thank you for escorting her here, recruit. Dismissed.
Ferris gave me a subtle nod before quickly leaving the room.
How thoughtful of you to come straight here to see me, Assistant Professor. Please join me at the table,
He said, standing and walking to its edge. Suddenly, that uneasy feeling returned. Even my brush with death wasn't enough to bring me to take this man lightly. I had to choose my words carefully, or I'd give away the fact that I knew more than I should. I walked around the table and stood at his side, following his eyes to the familiar battered section of the outer wall. He's waiting for me to speak first. Here goes nothing. Chapter 21. He'll expect me to try being diplomatic and weasel my way out. I'll surprise him by hitting the touchiest subject first and direct.
You'll be pleased to know I already started the intelligence procedure on Ghost, and he already has a surprisingly good grasp of language.
He nodded, still looking down at the model.
I appreciate someone who can think on their feet and doesn't fear reprimand. Even with the stir I've been causing in your division, you still came straight here to meet me. Bold, and a touch of recklessness. I see Frelier is still a fine judge of character.
Does he really mean what he's saying? Is he actually happy I started the procedure without his order? No, he's the one being diplomatic, trying to throw me off. And he's good. He has the best poker face I've ever seen. No matter how closely I observe him, I can't detect even a hint of deception.
Thank you. I wish I could say the same for myself. Every time I think I have someone figured out, they surprise me.
He laughed, leaning forward and gripping the edge of the table.
I assume you mean me? I'm the head of adversity management. No different from Professor Barth to Animal Research. To call me General is an outdated formality. You may call me Professor Marcus if it puts you more at ease. My priority is philosophy and the human spirit, and how to make it thrive. We are nurturers of what makes human beings the best they can be, and only when necessary do we fight.
An awful lot of armor and guns for philosophers,
I said, a little more quickly and sharply than I meant. He was provoking me, and I realized it only a little too late.
It would surprise you how seldom force has to be used when the power you wield is overwhelming. Strength is the shortest path to peace. Otherwise, you're always being tested, challenged. I can hear it in your voice that you don't yet believe me, but in time you'll learn.
It's not that I can't detect the deception. There just isn't any. This is a man who believes his own self-important words.
I see your model has the hole in the outer wall we encountered. Interesting,
I said. This time, I'd leave the opening for him to speak first.
Judging by the fact you're here speaking to me, I suppose you didn't encounter one of the old defensive units. Unless you did, and somehow survived.
He looked up at me, faster than I'd expected, and locked eyes with me. My first instinct was to look away, but I resisted. Surely he was aware of the encounter.
We encountered it but escaped. Why is that thing there, and why did it attack us?
I asked, finding my nerve again. He sighed, opening a small box sitting on the edge of the table and pulling out a figure that looked identical to the machine we encountered, putting it down in the wilderness area outside the wall.
This machine is a prototype. Originally, they were programmed not to attack those who carried the friendly tag given to all PanTech defenders. However, everything happened in a hurry, as you could imagine. There was no time to test things thoroughly, implement changes, and update these machines. Their primary purpose was to prevent loss of life, and that meant keeping them in the field. Many deserters showed themselves within our ranks, and the tags became useless. Traitors could simply walk up to the machines and casually disable them. So, the ability to differentiate friend from foe was removed, and all defenders were withdrawn. The machines proved to be more than sufficient to stop their advance.
Despite being tempted to point out the obvious contradiction in the purpose of these machines being to prevent loss of life, I bit my tongue.
Then why are they still active? This conflict took place 100 years ago.
They sent a deactivation signal out to all the units. However, some were damaged in the conflict and could no longer send or receive a signal. These units continued to patrol.
And kill or drive out every living thing on the ground. Did you know that?
I asked, having trouble hiding my irritation again.
There are no more ground animals there. It's altered the entire ecosystem.
An unforeseen consequence, but an acceptable loss. You may disagree, but human life comes first here. I'm not angry with you. I understand that you've only experienced one side of what adversity management does. You should see it from the other.
I'm not interested in transferring to adversity management if that's what you're suggesting. I'm perfectly happy in animal research, though I appreciate the offer.
He smiled, gesturing to the areas beyond the model.
Though you'd be welcome to transfer, that's not what I meant. There's someone I'd like you to meet.
He tapped a button on his jacket.
Manager Pauline, please report in person to be briefed on your next assignment.
I stared at the button, waiting for sound to come out, but it didn't. He noticed my expression and grinned.
Oh, there's a small device in my ear. She confirmed and will be here shortly. You'll like Pauline. She has spirit like you, but she's old enough to be your great-grandmother. A lot of wisdom comes with that kind of experience.
Where was he going with all of this? And why was he being so casual and friendly? It wasn't just unusual considering his reputation and rank, but also my reason for coming here. I expected I'd at least get a lecture or a cold reprimand. He was treating me like an old friend, or a young trainee he was taking under his wing. He didn't seem angry with me at all. A fully suited soldier entered the room and saluted.
"Reporting, General,"
A female voice said.
You can remove your helmet. There's someone I'd like you to meet.
He said, nodding toward me. She looked between us several times before reluctantly removing her helmet. At first, I thought she was furious, but I quickly realized she wouldn't wear such an expression in the presence of the general, given her etiquette. This was just her face, all the time.
"Well, go on, girl. Introduce yourself to me. Or do you think that scientist's jacket means you don't have to observe manners?"
I quickly saluted. I'd assumed someone else was just posturing or trying to play games with me. This woman didn't seem the type. Clearly, she was a stickler for protocol,
I'm Assistant Professor Taylor from Animal Research. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I said.
Save your flattery, girl. A simple introduction would suffice. I don't need to know what does or doesn't give you pleasure. We aren't that close.
My jaw nearly dropped. So much for impeccable manners. Marcus burst into laughter, giving me a pat on the back.
See what I mean? You two are going to get along great.
Before I could ask what he meant, she spoke again.
I am Commander Pauline, and meeting you is not a pleasure, but an inconvenience I will bear, because General Marcus has asked it of me, and because I trust his judgment.
Could this woman be part of his inner circle and the plot to take over PanTech with military rule? It was hard to venture a guess. On one hand, she would clearly follow all orders without hesitation. On the other hand, that probably meant she was loyal first to the organization, with everything else coming second. She respected protocol and the structure of command. She'd obey the president over the general in an instant. Doubtful someone like this was in on it.
I always appreciate your candor, Pauline. You and this girl have that in common. A rare trait these days, especially among newcomers. It's why I chose you to take her along on your next deployment, seeing as it's happening soon and will be short. It will do Taylor some good to experience the perspective of an adversity manager firsthand. She's also cooperating with our division to create assets that will ultimately make us more effective in the field. Shadowing you will give her a better understanding of how best to guide this research and implement it.
Not only is he not trying to keep me close to him, but he's sending me away again so soon.
I've sent Ghost with Linda, and she should stay with him for monitoring. He behaved strangely after the encounter with the machine. Until we can rule out any behavioral complications, he should stay out of the field.
Marcus nodded along, as though he didn't understand why I'd even brought it up. This man was making me doubt things I knew to be true.
He's your companion. Of course, I will trust your judgment. Let me know when you're comfortable, and we'll transfer him to our facilities for monitoring. It can certainly wait until you return.
Ghost? Companion?
Pauline asked, looking at me, then to the general.
Ghost is her falcon, and one of the first test subjects for our joint project with Animal Research.
Pauline's eyes were glazing over with each word. Clearly, she had no interest in discussing science.
Understood. I suggest you stick close when we arrive. These primitives can be rowdy when we show up. These days, we roll in with guns hot and don't get a lot of arrows shot our way anymore. They're smart enough to figure out that guns beat bows, I guess.
I could feel my body's urge to tense and resisted. This woman may have some of the wisdom that comes with age, but her narrow-mindedness and sense of superiority overshadowed it.
Now, Pauline, you understand even your zone is cultivating PanTech's future youth.
General Marcus said, with a hint of reprimand in his tone. It was a statement, rather than a question.
Oh, I understand that very well, General. Those that come out of that place are truly worthy of being called diamonds in the rough. The poor souls. At any rate, with your permission, I'll return to my preparations.
General Marcus nodded, resting his hands behind his back.
Dismissed.
Without a word, Pauline turned to leave, but only made it as far as the door before stopping and turning to look at me.
Do you think we're racing and you're giving me a head start? Why are you just standing there?
General Marcus nodded.
Good luck on the mission, both of you. Assistant Professor, please come see me immediately upon your return.
I turned and saluted him. The involuntary nature of the movement startled me. In only this brief conversation, it seemed his charisma had already infected me. I'd have to be truly careful from now on. Exposing this man would be nearly impossible. Without irrefutable proof, no one in this world would believe me. After all, I'd nearly doubted it myself. Chapter 22. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to warn Linda and Joyce before I joined Commander Pauline's team, but Ferris promised to get the message to them somehow. I wondered when his next deployment was, and how long he'd be gone. I'd hoped we'd be able to see each other more than we had. Despite PanTech being larger than I envisioned, he was only a few seconds' ride away on the transport. In that way, PanTech felt smaller than it was. I wondered, too, what Marcus's true purpose was for sending me on this mission. Was there a different reason than the one he stated? With him, it would be impossible to tell. Where most give hints to their true meaning through body language or tone of voice, General Marcus showed none of these weaknesses. Many times already, I'd doubted what Ghost had told me. I couldn't imagine this man, upright and loyal friend of the president, as the leader of a military coup. It felt like trying to imagine the sun as actually being the moon if someone you really trusted told you so.
Rise and shine, lab coat.
A male soldier said, nudging me with his leg. I sat up in my cot. Despite falling asleep in a rapidly moving vehicle, I slept soundly. From the inside, it was difficult to tell the thing was moving at all. From the outside, you could see it coming from miles away. It reminded me of something that belonged on the water more than on land, and I was told it could manage both. Air capabilities were there too if the need arose. Not sure what that would mean exactly. I assumed that meant more for broken roads and bridges, rather than retreating. Soldiers referring to it lovingly as the RB, short for rolling barracks. It lived up to its name.
It's Taylor, Armor Face.
I said, sitting up and stretching my arms.
Armor face. I love it, considering I don't even have my helmet on right now. I'm Zell, by the way. Sniper and man of very few words, as you can tell.
He winked, brushing the long, dark hair out of his blue eyes.
Clearly, you're the best choice for a sniper. I couldn't even tell you were here until just now. I didn't hear you bragging about your rifle upgrades last night for close to an hour, or trying to convince your female teammate that you were the best kisser ever, and you'd wager your rifle in a bet to prove it. Also, I didn't hear you chatting with the chef all morning about how his breakfast reminded you of your mother's cooking. I didn't hear you tell your friend sitting across the room there. What was it now? Something about me being a cute one, and how you're going to come over here and try the old insult and compliment trick, and how it works every time. You're basically invisible.
He took a step back and looked around to see who'd heard, and his face turned red. His friend across the room clapped his hands together and started laughing so hard he fell backward into his cot.
Smooth as spider silk, my brother. She's practically already your wife.
Shut it, Zeke!
Zell shouted, before clearing his throat and turning back to me. Twins, though they didn't seem that much alike.
Where's my ring?
I asked.
It's a custom in my zone. You're supposed to offer a ring to the one you intend to marry.
Zell crossed his arms, his face slowly returning to normal color.
Oh, you're just as bad as my brother. Can't tell a joke around here without getting interrogated by the anti-fun division. Forget it. I bet you're more into the science types anyway.
He said, punctuating it with a hump sound and turning his head away. It was so unexpected, I let out a small giggle. I was understanding his humor a bit. Sort of.
I'm not sure why everyone does that. Everyone here passed their entrance exams. You're a science type too, actually.
Does that mean you're into me after all?
He said, waggling his eyebrows.
Quit while you're ahead, brother. You made her laugh. Don't make her vomit right after.
Fine. Breakfast is served, lab coat. The others said I shouldn't get too attached to you, since lab coats have died on these missions from time to time. I didn't think that was fair, so here I am. Stick by me and I'll keep you breathing.
He extended his hand, holding a small bowl covered with a lid. Removing the lid, the smell was almost overwhelming. I expected worse, but this food was certainly better than the synthetic stuff we ate at Animal Research. I narrowed my eyes, not sure whether to feel anger or appreciation. Was this the true reason he asked me to tag along? Because lab coats die on these missions sometimes?
If you're wondering why this food looks so good, it's because we trade with the citizens of the zone. I'm sure you remember, as most low-tech zones have the custom, and most zones are very low-tech.
Eggs and bacon? Real eggs and bacon?
I asked, still in disbelief.
Yep.
He said, smiling from ear to ear.
5 minutes until landing.
A voice echoed over the auditory system.
Better make quick work of that.
He said, placing the bowl in my hand and sitting down across from me.
Thanks.
I said, resisting the urge to ask more questions in favor of getting my food down. Linda and Joyce, the culinary enthusiasts they are, would be so envious right now. It's a shame I had to eat such good food so quickly,
I meant it.
Zell said.
I was with one of those lab coats who died. We won't let it happen to you. Forget all that other stuff I said. Was just trying to make conversation, and I'm not very good at it.
Thank you, Zell, but I have a feeling I'll be okay.
I said between bites, not elaborating further.
Aren't you curious why you weren't assigned a power suit?
Zeke asked, his voice even and low. I finished my bowl and handed it back to Zell, considering Zeke's words. Of course! Why not send me on another expedition that wasn't leaving so quickly, to give me time to be fitted for a suit? Answers always come with questions. Am I being sent here to be disposed of or to be tested? I knew that even if I survived, I could never read the answer on his face. That left only one goal in front of me. Survive. Return. Expose him. Somehow. That part wouldn't be easy, assuming it was even possible.
Arrival!
The disembodied voice called again. The three of us moved up several rooms, until finally we arrived in the main area with about 20 other soldiers. Pauline stood in the front.
It's been 1 month since our last visit. Civil unrest has been reported, and another attempt has been made on the life of the appointed king, this time successfully. The people have installed their own king. We are here to evaluate whether that king is suitable. If he isn't, we will remove him and install a more appropriate one. But you should be prepared for bloodshed. We will not tolerate resistance. Questions?
I raised my hand.
Taylor,
She said, waving her hand toward me.
Why not just let them keep the king they've chosen and avoid the bloodshed?
I asked.
A perfectly reasonable question. Who doesn't want to avoid bloodshed after all?
She asked, clearly mocking me.
Well, I'll tell you. The new king is likely to be hostile to PanTech's presence. If he is, he'll use his new power to form a resistance effort and attack us on our next deployment. That's assuming an attack isn't already lying in wait. This little war of theirs will cause many of their own deaths. Or even worse, one of our own could get hurt. The cattle don't get to make the rules for the farm, to use an animal metaphor. That should help you understand, since you're from animal research.
I wanted to argue, but I could feel how pointless that would be. Instead, I clenched my fists and did everything I could to look satisfied with her answer. No other answer would have been any better.
What was the point in bringing along another lab coat?
A woman near the front asked.
Didn't the last one take an arrow to the eye?
Pauline sighed.
Fair warning, this is the last stupid question I answer. The general has faith in Taylor's ability to keep herself alive and recommended her for this mission personally. Let me say that again. He nominated her for this mission personally. Would anyone like to express further doubt in his judgment? I can always bring it to his attention when we return. I'm sure he'd love to listen to your advice on how to better lead our division.
Only silence followed. A long, awkward silence. Pauline was exactly the kind of commander I hated. It made me really appreciate Frelia even more.
Good. Now get out. We'll be getting many visitors, so handle them as you see fit. We'll spend the morning here before going to see the new king of their people.
Everyone stepped off the RB in an unorganized fashion and spilled out into the main gate of the city. I braced myself for hostility, but was met with the opposite. It seems I wasn't the only one surprised, as nervous, confused glances were exchanged between the soldiers as they flung flowers at us. A large, cheering crowd had gathered, and had likely been waiting there for some time. More surprises that should have never been surprises. Of course, the new king would recognize the biggest threat to his recently gained throne wouldn't be a competitor from within the zone, but PanTech. Smart. No doubt this crowd had formed on the king's orders. As for their intention, that was yet to be known. Chapter 23. I couldn't tell if Pauline was more disgusted or disappointed by the warm reception, only that she didn't like it. Most of the soldiers hadn't put on their helmets, and after some hesitancy, some present had approached the soldiers individually and offered them gifts. They ranged from more flowers to snacks to something even more bold. Themselves. 2 young women approached Zell, and one wrapped herself around each arm, both giggling as they dragged him away down the busy street. They were beautiful. Everything about this was becoming far too obvious, as if it wasn't obvious already. Though these young men and women were trained and equipped to win any battle, they stood on an even playing field in a battle of wits. I knew firsthand what it was like to play on the heartstrings of one of these soldiers. No matter the intent, it's always our hearts that get us into the most trouble. I really hoped that Zell would be all right. Maybe I should.
Hi.
I looked down to see a little girl standing in front of me. Her smile felt a little more genuine than the others.
Hello there, little one. Lots of people here today, huh?
I said, suddenly realizing how long it had been since I'd seen, let alone spoke to an actual child.
Have you seen my cat? Her name's Milda. She's really little. Gray with lots of stripes. She always follows me to the market, but the big cart scared her. She ran away.
I looked around, but there was no sign of the cat anywhere in this area. Unless this was a trick, the little thing most likely hid itself under something close to where she was scared. I looked around again. This time, not for the cat, but for Zell and Zeke. Both were long gone. So much for my heroes. Though I was eager to explore this zone and learn more about the culture without bloodthirsty, armored soldiers standing next to me. If the others could sneak off, I'm sure I could get away with it too. If I was going to take my chances of getting dragged off by someone, better a child than some handsome stranger offering to feed me, than swindling me out of supplies, or a favor after feeding me his sob story instead.
I'll help you find your kitty,
I said, reaching down and taking her hand. She smiled brightly, and we began walking down the street.
You're really pretty, and you don't wear the big armor, but your clothes are kind of strange. Are you with the PanTech, or are you from here?
Well, thank you. And don't worry about that little slip just now, though you'd better be careful. Some others might get angry or worse.
Sorry,
she said, tightening her grip on my hand. I gave her a pat on the head.
Let's just focus on finding your kitty.
As if on cue, she pointed to a man and woman standing and talking in front of a building. The woman was holding and petting a kitten. Sure enough, gray with stripes.
There she is! There's Milda!
She shouted, letting go of my hand and running toward the couple. I walked quickly behind her, looking around for potential ambushers. These all seemed like regular people. However, I knew full well that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when their backs are against the wall.
Is this your cat? She sneaked into my shop this morning and got into my fresh meat.
The man said, shaking his fist.
I thought she belonged to this woman, but I can see now she's yours. Come inside, and I will show you what your parents owe me.
Without warning, he grabbed the little girl by the arm and pulled her inside, much to the dismay of the woman holding the kitten, who seemed just as surprised as me. I took a step inside and stopped when the door closed behind me, and I turned just in time to see a large board fall in behind it, locking it from the inside, dropped by a large man who had been waiting. I couldn't muster up enough enthusiasm to even feign surprise.
I'm sorry. They have my mommy, and that really is my cat, Milda. He said he'd chop her up and sell her in his meat tomorrow and hurt my mommy too if I didn't help. I didn't have a choice.
I held my finger to my lips.
Shh. It's all right. I'm not mad at you.
A third man jumped out from behind the counter. Just how many were they? Before I could react, he had a blade to my neck. I didn't resist, just observed. His hands were trembling, and tears were welling up in his eyes.
Now come along and don't make a fuss, or I'll gut you like a fish.
Right,
I said, raising my hands in the air.
Just tell me where to go. Clearly you've got something on your mind. Let's just talk.
Go upstairs and don't make a break for it, or I'll cut you, I swear. Me and these boys are knights who served under the true king, recently murdered and replaced by your puppet.
Our puppet? But we didn't.
Shut it.
The man standing by the door said, drawing his sword.
And we know you PanTech tyrants have fancy tricks up your sleeves, so make one wrong move or reach for anything and you'll be dead before you grab whatever it is.
All right, I'm not reaching for anything. Look, I'm walking upstairs.
I said, stepping slowly up the stairs, my hands still above my head. Should I use my implant and pummel these guys, then make a run for it? No, not yet. I had a morbid curiosity. I wanted to hear what drove these men to do something they clearly didn't want to do. The butcher walked up the stairs last, joining the three of us in the small attic. The sun shone through, and it was a beautiful view. Any other situation, and I'd have enjoyed sitting here for a few minutes, away from all the insanity I'd entangled myself in. Instead, I was here with a knife to my throat, entangled in yet even more. The man with the knife pointed to a chair.
There, sit.
I stopped and turned to face him.
I'll sit, but I'm not letting you tie me up. Understand?
We stared each other down for a moment before the butcher spoke up.
She's not going anywhere. I locked the hatch. The door downstairs is barred. She's just a lone woman, and no one followed her here, or they'd have already busted in to save her. Just humor the girl and leave her untied.
The tears finally flowed from the man with the knife's face.
Let's just let her go. We were knights in the king's guard, men of honor. We shouldn't be kidnapping girls off the street. Shut your mouth,
The man with the sword shouted.
The rules changed when they assassinated the king. Now we do what we must for our kingdom.
The man with the knife dropped his weapon, letting it bounce across the floor.
I won't kill an innocent woman just to sabotage the usurper.
Innocent?
The butcher asked with a laugh.
Innocent, you say? She is one of the oppressors who installed the traitor. How is she innocent?
We didn't.
I tried to speak but was interrupted again.
So, you will deny it?
He said, taking a step toward me and crossing his arms.
On our way here, I was told that this change in leadership was unexpected and that we were going to meet with the new king to assess the situation. PanTech plans to remove him if he is unfriendly toward them and replace him with yet another king. Maybe I was lied to, but it didn't sound to me like this was a planned change.
The men looked at one another. I could see in their eyes that they didn't believe me. The man with the sword took a step forward, grabbing me by the hair, and pressed the tip of his blade into my chest. This man wasn't trembling. He had the will to do what he claimed he would do. Still, maybe I could find out more and talk my way out of this. Even if this man was willing to kill me, the root of it was still a misunderstanding. A glint in my peripheral vision caught my attention. Could it be? I activated the implant, forcing my eyes to focus harder on the object in the distance. I couldn't be certain, but I had a feeling. It was Zell, and his rifle was pointed directly toward us. He kneeled and was in position to take a shot. I had to act now, or these men would be dead in the next few seconds. All three of the men were distracted now by my focus on the window, and I took advantage of this to grab the blade of the sword, redirecting it away from me. Just a little strength. Just enough to make this simple, but not enough to seem impossible. That's all I needed. As he fell toward me, I grabbed his arm and rotated my torso, slamming him hard onto the floor. He gasped and remained conscious, but lost hold of his sword and didn't move. The butcher lunged forward next, and I met him with a quick jab to his throat. When his arms reached involuntarily, I followed it up with a kick to his stomach. He fell hard against the wall and rolled to his side, writhing in pain on the floor.
Get down!
I shouted at the man who had dropped his knife, standing there in shock at what had occurred. He didn't listen to my command. I lunged toward him, tackling him to the floor. In that exact moment, something blew through the glass and left a gaping hole in the wall across. It sounded like a thunderclap inside the room, and everything went silent before my ears started ringing.
You saved us from someone watching the room. Someone was watching after all.
You're fools to go up against PanTech this way.
I said, slapping him across the face as he sat up, knocking him to the floor again. He clutched his cheek with his palm.
And yet, what can we do but fight back? You're saying our safety is more important than our freedom, but nothing is more important than freedom, not even our lives. The old king didn't even understand that. This one is even worse. What choice do we have but to fight?
I didn't have an answer. In fact, his words left me feeling empty. What were they supposed to do? Did I have an answer? I didn't. A loud bang came from below, followed a second later by a fist flying through the attic door and knocking it open.
Oh, looks like you've got it covered. Didn't mean to step on your toes, Taylor.
It was Zeke. Zell was still watching us from a distance and was covering him.
I thought your brother was too busy to be bothered to help,
I said. Zeke laughed.
Oh, you mean the girls? Truth is, Zell is a lot smarter than he looks. He was only gone for a couple of minutes before he came back, noticed you were gone, and tracked you here. We have your blood signature, obviously.
I'd forgotten about that. My blood signature. Of course. Someone was going to come, eventually.
These men confessed to not working for the new king. They were trying to set him up by killing me and making it look like the new king had ordered it, giving their lives in the process and letting the secret die with them.
Oh, well done. Zell is more of the shoot first and ask questions later type. This could have been bad if you hadn't handled things the way you did. Stand behind me, please.
I walked behind Zell, and he held up a device in front of him. When he activated it, the three men fell unconscious. Some kind of weapon I hadn't seen before.
Don't worry,
He said.
they're not dead. We'll bring them in and wake them up for questioning.
If I'd had a hidden recording device on me, like the soldiers' helmets, I could have broadcast their confessions. Then, no one would have to be convinced. Pauline still might not believe me and... that's it. Chapter 24. The mission turned out to be a short one, as expected. With the testimony of the would-be saboteurs considered, and after several meetings with the new king and his advisors, Pauline left the new ruler in place, rather than destabilize the zone further, with its third king in almost as many days. Zell and Zeke were not reprimanded, as far as I knew. It was strange, considering I was likely sent there to disappear. It's possible that either Pauline didn't know about this intention, or they just didn't care about the outcome. As promised, I went straight to see the general. I tried to remind myself that his expression would be meaningless, but got caught up in it anyway. He genuinely looked so pleased that I'd returned. I'd seen that look so many times on my father's face when I'd return home. Marcus's expression looked as real as his.
Welcome back, Taylor. I'm told you ran into some trouble. Nothing you couldn't handle, I see.
He said, leaning over the table and looking down at the broken wall as he'd done before. He clearly wants me to ask him about it.
I see Pauline must have contacted you after the event. It was really no trouble at all. As you said, much needed field experience. It's easy to make assumptions being on the other end of things. I never really appreciated how difficult it is for PanTech to manage these zones.
Go on,
He said, his eyes meeting mine.
To be frank, it seems like adversity management is the backbone of PanTech. The rest of the divisions are isolated and seem to be more focused on what happens here. Only adversity management deals with citizens across our territories.
Even as I said it, it didn't feel like the lie I'd intended it to be. Was I believing it? He scratched his chin, as if to ponder my words.
It can seem that way, but looking deeper, that's almost like saying your skin is the only important part of your body because it's what everyone sees. We represent PanTech to those who live in the zones, and we nurture their adversity to make them the highest quality humans they can be. However, it's the President's office and all the scientific divisions that make this a place worthy of reaching. A reward for those who have suffered and are worthy.
But doesn't reward rob us of adversity? Injections that can heal broken bones in days, simulated realities that feel like the real thing, machines that can build in hours what would take men years. Free, nutritious food that can taste like anything, limitless resources of all kinds that have made the exchange of goods, something that has existed as long as humanity itself, obsolete, invincible protectors that guard the walls. I could go on.
Feel free.
He said, not a hint of emotion in his words.
I'm curious what you think,
I said, suddenly cautious that I'd gone too far.
I will speak gently and assume your intentions are pure. I enjoy a discussion of philosophy as much as the next person. After all, it's at the very core of adversity management, not violence. However, I'd say your words border on dangerous. They almost sound rebellious. Of course, that's not at all what you mean. I just want to caution you against speaking so freely in the presence of others who may not understand.
And just like that, the gate slams shut. I'd hoped for an opening. Of course, it would never work. It was too early, and I simply didn't have time to go for another inside approach. By the time I gained his trust, PanTech would be a military dictatorship, and things will be much worse for everyone. Worse. Hard to imagine, and steeped in irony.
You're right. I should have considered how it sounded before I spoke so freely. That's good advice. Thank you. By the way,
I said, looking down at the wall. It was small, but I saw it. What was that? A twitch? A tap of his finger? I barely caught it, but I suddenly couldn't help but feel this was a trap. He's baiting me into showing my true colors. He gave me the rope to hang myself, and I threaded the noose with my words about adversity management being the backbone of PanTech. Seems he was far better than me at this. I had to be careful. Being close to him like this was not a good idea.
Yes? You were about to ask me something?
I need to pivot to something believable. I was looking right at the wall.
I was just thinking about how the members of Pauline's unit tracked me down so quickly. Of all the things I've seen since I arrived here, the technology surrounding our blood being used to open doors, identify us from a distance, or track our movements seems so far beyond even the latest science. Who invented it?
That would be the president, a little over 200 years ago.
I was stunned. How long ago did he say? 200 years? Impossible.
Did you say...
I started.
200 years? Yes. Surprised? He's much older than that.
Are there others that old in PanTech?
No, he's by far the oldest. I'm 163 myself, but that's not uncommon for those with the goal of a long life, though even that isn't as common as you probably think. In the age of steel, very old ages were common. It was catastrophic for humanity, as you might imagine. You're a smart girl. I'm sure you could think of many reasons.
Arrogance, power, not sure what a long life would do to make it worse,
I said. Something felt out of place. His explanations feel indirect, like he's purposely leaving them unclear, allowing me to make assumptions that are untrue.
If you were to have the power to create the perfect world, what would that world look like, Taylor?
A perfect world isn't achievable. I wouldn't try. It should be up to each individual to create their own idea of a perfect world,
I said, trying to choose words carefully. Philosophy again?
And if their ideal world involves them preying on others? And if another's ideal world involved not being preyed upon? Which one deserves their ideal world more? Who decides?
People can look out for one another, band together against those who want to do them harm,
I said.
Right. They band together, agree on rules, agree on how those rules will be enforced. Designate protectors, enforce the rules. By enforcing the rules, they are no longer free to choose their own ideal world. Do you understand? A world where everyone chooses for themselves isn't possible.
But in your description, isn't it the enforcers who ultimately decide? The creators of the rules only think they're deciding, but the enforcers actually create the society and maintain it. The enforcers naturally become the rulers in time, whether or not it looks that way.
He sighed, turning and strolling back to his desk.
You've missed the point, Taylor. For today, at least. Not to worry, though. You have a long life ahead of you, but you should concern yourself with the long day ahead of you first. We have 1,000 dogs and cats who began the process yesterday, and you'll need to oversee them. I assume you'll want to catch up with your friends as well. You've had a very busy couple of weeks, after all.
I see. He played my card against me to make a point. I began the process with Ghost early, without advising him. Now he started the process on 1,000 dogs and cats while I was gone. What can I say? Nothing. I did the same thing. I can't object, or even show signs of being upset. It would expose me as a hypocrite who had other motives with Ghost. It would show that I didn't trust him, and that he shouldn't trust me. This man is far more cunning and dangerous than I ever gave him credit for. I couldn't waste any more time.
I hope we can continue our conversation again soon. I'll think about your question in the meantime.
He smiled, nodded, and turned his attention to his desk. My cue to leave. I'd only just made it outside when Frelia approached me. She'd been waiting for me. I'd expected her to look happy, but she wasn't even making eye contact. Was she feeling well? Still, she was exactly the person I wanted to see, and she'd saved me the trouble of finding her.
Frelia, is there somewhere private we can go? Maybe to your training grounds? There's something I want to talk to you about.
She made eye contact with me briefly, before looking away again. She seemed even more uncomfortable than before.
Oh? Sure, I suppose we can. You're behind on your training anyway.
Frelia was the only type of person more difficult to read than the general. She was completely unpredictable, and sometimes her reactions or things she would do didn't even make sense. Her antics would make you think she hated you one minute and loved you the next. I wanted to believe that she was my friend, after everything she'd done for me. She mentioned so many times that she thought we were alike. I was about to find out just how alike we really were. If you're enjoying F. Lockhaven's audio content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way to help out the channel.